to No Place Like Home, the radio show, coming to you on WRXB 1590 AM and Pinellas County Connection TV. This program is presented to you as an opportunity to hear information that can help you fulfill the dream of owning your very own home. We also share information about upcoming special events and programs to help you enjoy the good life in Pinellas County, as well as other items of interest. The sponsor of this program is the Housing Finance Authority of Pinellas County, which offers the First-Time Home Buyers Program, your key to home ownership, helping people in Pinellas, Pasco, and Polk counties, making their dreams of home ownership a reality. I'm Carmen Lemberg alongside Jane Merlin, your host for today's show. Morning, Jane. How are you today?
Doing well, and I hope you are too.
I am, thanks.
You know, we've got a really interesting program ahead this morning. However, it's one of those shows that I know a little bit about the topic, but probably enough to be dangerous.
I agree, so I'm looking forward to really learning about this.
Same here. It's real important, and particularly for those in our area that may be a landlord. Their ears should be perking up because there may be an opportunity for them to be involved in a really unique and special way that can help a lot of people in the community.
Oh, I agree. So landlords, get your pen and pencils ready and listen up.
Absolutely. And I know that we're anxious to get started, but we do have a message from our sponsor.
Thanks, Jane. The Housing Finance Authority of Pinellas County is offering the First-Time Home Buyers Program, your key to home ownership, helping people in Pinellas, Pasco, and Polk counties make their dreams of home ownership a reality. The First-Time Home Buyers Program is for individuals who have never owned a home, have not owned a home in the past 3 years, or veterans. The HFA offers a low rate on its 30-year fixed-rate mortgage, and if you need a little help with down payment and closing costs, we can also help with that. To get your key to home ownership, visit www.pinellascounty.org/HFA as in Housing Finance Authority. For more information or comments about the show, call us at 727-223-6419 or email newhome@pinellashfa.com. Jane?
Thank you, Carmen, and what a great program that is. And a matter of fact, we want to give a shout out to a caller recently who caught the show on YouTube and is actually in the process of getting their very first home.
It's exciting.
And also, before we get into the topic, I want to let everybody know that there's a very helpful program that's going to be coming our way in October. There's a shredding event, and for those who have concerns with identity theft, it is certainly going to be a wonderful opportunity to perhaps empty out one of those filing cabinets that you've been putting that paper in that you haven't gotten around to shredding yourself. This will be kind of a bulk shredding opportunity. It'll take place in October over in Pinellas County's solid waste operation, and still working on some of the details, but certainly check the website for information on how to participate in that event.
Oh, looking forward to that too.
Yes, I've got a lot that I need to dispose of myself. So let's get right into our topic. I'm very pleased to be able to introduce our guest today. We've got two topics that are related to the Housing Choice Voucher Program, including one that's especially designed for veterans. We've got two guests joining us to help us understand the program a little bit better and how to participate. Elisa Galvan is the Housing Choice Voucher Director of the Pinellas County Housing Authority. Elisa has 20 years' experience working in the Housing Choice Voucher Program. She graduated from the University of South Florida with a bachelor degree in social work and interned with the Juvenile Welfare Board at a public housing complex in Clearwater. Elisa received a Master of Business Administrative degree from Florida Metropolitan University and previously worked as a Section 8 housing advisor for the Clearwater Housing Authority. As the Housing Choice Voucher Program Director for the Pinellas County Housing Authority, she administers more than 3,600 vouchers at various locations, including Pinellas Heights Senior Apartments and the newly renovated landings at Cross Bayou. Carrie Meo-Omens is a section chief for the Housing and Urban Development, or HUD, Veterans Administration Supported Housing, also known as VASH, program at Bay Pines VA Healthcare System. She holds a Master of Social Work from the University of Illinois at Chicago and is licensed as a clinical social worker. She has many years' experience as program administrator, educator, and clinician. Carrie came to Bay Pines in 2009 as the facility's homeless coordinator and moved into her current position in 2012. She's responsible for the clinical and administrative management of Bay Pines VA healthcare system, HUD VASH program. Welcome to No Place Like Home, Carrie and Elisa.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So good to have you both here, and what great experience you both bring to the issue of both homelessness and housing, and it's just great to have you here to get your expertise and learn more about this program. Elisa, we're going to start with you and have you give us an overview of what the Housing Authority actually does.
Okay, the Housing Authority administers vouchers. It houses approximately 6,000 families throughout Pinellas County. We have affordable housing through the Housing Authority, voucher program. We have a assisted living program, and we also have public housing, which, like I said, houses about 6,000 people in this county.
And I know in the introduction we talked about a couple of examples of the communities that you all have, the Pinellas Heights, as well as Landings across Bayou. And those are both absolutely beautiful facilities. Tell us a little bit about those.
Yes, Pinellas Heights is for 62 and older families. There's 153 units there. 132 of them are what we call project-based. It's based on 30% of their income is what they pay towards rent. And the other ones are 21 public housing units in which they also pay 30% of their income towards the rent, and the Housing Authority pays the rest.
And so tell us about these vouchers themselves. What is a voucher, and what do people do with those?
The voucher basically is a way for people to have subsidy. The subsidy is through Housing and Urban Development. We administer the funds for them. Basically, somebody can sign up for the program. Their name will come down on a waiting list. If they are going to be housed, we give them eligibility criteria. And then once they pass that eligibility criteria, we lease them up. In Pinellas Heights, it's project-based, so they are leased up in that complex, and that voucher is tied to that unit.
Okay, so that voucher actually stays with
that complex. But we have other vouchers called Housing Choice vouchers that are throughout the community. We try to lease up families because it's housing choice. They choose where they would like to live. And with that choice, we see that a lot of families move around the Pinellas County in different areas.
And
so you wouldn't even,
right,
and the voucher stays with them. Through that program as well, that's where the VASH program comes in. We have Veterans Administrative Supportive Housing vouchers, in which we have about 470 of those currently for this program.
Well, and that's a good segue to bring Carrie in to have you tell us a little bit more about the VASH program and how that works. And there's a relationship between what you all do and the Housing Authority. So give us an overview of how all that works.
So first, thank you very much for having me on the program. I appreciate the opportunity to be here and share our partnership on behalf of veterans. HUD VASH is a collaborative effort between the Department of Housing and Urban Development and the Department of Veterans Affairs. It is a program where we work collaboratively with public housing authorities across the nation, particularly in our area here in Pinellas County, with Elisa's organization, the Pinellas County Public Housing Authority. We also work collaboratively with the St. Petersburg Public Housing Authority to bring the program to veterans. So the program is designed to really work both sides of the equation. So what we know about people who are homeless is what they need and desire most is a place to live. So the program provides that place to live, and it is a place where the veteran chooses. They are entitled to select any market rent property here in the community where the landlord is willing to accept the program and the rent standards, which I think Elisa will talk more about later. Once we bring a veteran into the program and we are providing that housing subsidy through the voucher, the VA is also providing intensive in-home support services. The program is really aimed at helping veterans who are homeless not only achieve housing, but then be able to sustain that independent housing over the long run.
Wonderful.
And you mentioned supportive services. What might that include?
Well, upon admission to the program, our staff are doing comprehensive assessment of the veteran's needs. We are very much what's called a housing first program. So we believe in this model that housing is a fundamental right and that everyone deserves a place to live, and that once that individual is in housing, we want to work with that individual to determine the best plan for them. So in order to do so, we're going to do a really comprehensive assessment. We're going to understand from the veteran what medical, mental health, substance use services they may need, what community supports they currently have in place, if any, what family supports they may have in place, what other resources they may need, from perhaps a disadvantaged bus pass that would be available to them at a reduced cost, all the way up to including very comprehensive specialty medical services. The neat thing about HUD VASH is we don't require veterans to participate in traditional treatment. We really are housing first. And the idea is that until one's need for safety, belongingness in their community is met, they really cannot focus on those sort of higher order medical, mental health needs. And so it really is housing first. Bring the person in, get them a safe environment to live in, which they have a huge choice in, and then ultimately work with them to enhance quality of life. And for every veteran, that's going to look very different because it's really about their goals, their desire, and meeting those goals.
So who exactly qualifies for the HUD VASH program, and what are the other eligibility requirements?
So we have two sets of eligibility requirements.
Right.
On the VA side of the house, veterans have to be what's considered VA healthcare eligible. So they do have to enroll in the healthcare system. Aside from that, we do prioritize veterans who meet the Hearth Act definition of homeless. And so essentially that means that they are folks who are living in a place not meant for human habitation, a public or privately funded shelter system, or really truly on the street. And we work with both veterans and veterans and their families. Aside from healthcare eligibility and homelessness, the only requirement that we really have is that the veteran agree to accept the case management services. They don't actually need to agree to traditional treatment modalities, but they do have to be willing to work with my team to look at quality of life and how we can help them improve that quality of life. There are also some income requirements which Elisa can speak to.
And then once they're approved by the VA, they're then sent to our housing authority to receive their what we call a briefing, to let them know what's their responsibilities while they're on our program. Then they go out and they choose the unit that they want to live in. We go out and we inspect every unit. And once the inspection happens and it passes, then we allow the tenant to start living in the place that they've chosen.
What is the difference between the regular choice voucher that you have and the VASH, HUD VASH voucher that you have? Is there any real difference between it?
Qualifications, there's a little bit of difference. That HUD waives some of the criminal backgrounds and criminal backgrounds, not sexual offenders. They can't be a sexual offender to be on the program. But they do waive those, and that's pretty much the only difference between the two. All the rules work for the same veteran as they do a regular person with a regular housing choice voucher program.
Okay.
Well, and I think the difference on the VA side of that is in the regular housing choice program, the participant doesn't have to accept the VA case management services.
That's the added piece.
And for us, HUD VASH is not a low-income housing program. It's a program that's aimed at helping people who are homeless come off the street and then maintain that housing. And the way we do that is by bringing the services from the VA to the community, to the veteran in their home.
Well, I'm sure this is a real popular program, and you must have a lot of people that are vying to get into it. So let's talk about that first. How does a veteran find out about the program, and how would they apply?
Sure. Well, the word on the street is it's a great program. We seem to be reaching the veterans who are in need. It's a very low barrier program. So when I say that, I mean veterans can come into the program through a variety of different avenues. They may be seen at a shelter by a VA homeless outreach worker. They might call the Public Housing Authority, hear something about it, and call and request information. They could access the program by way of our walk-in clinic at Bay Pine at the C.W. Bill Young Medical Center. So we have a walk-in clinic for veterans that are homeless, where there's an outreach social worker there during the day who can engage those folks and do kind of a brief screening to see if this is a good program for them. We have staff out in the community, a variety of different shelter programs, food pantries. A veteran could ask any VA social worker or provider. And I think, our facility has been in this community for a very long time. So we have very strong community partnerships. And veterans may present at one of our partner programs. And then they may contact us and alert us to the need of the veteran.
So then somebody comes in and says, I heard about this program and I would like to participate. What are all the steps that the veteran has to take to do that, and what you all have to do? How does that process work?
So we start the ball rolling at the VA. A veteran presents to us for services. It's determined that this program might be a good fit for them, because part of our model is making sure that we get the right veteran on the right path, going to the right place at the right time. We don't want to apply too much intervention when all someone needs is maybe a brief little bit of financial assistance or a short-term option. Our program is really looking at serving the most vulnerable and potentially those who have been on the street for a very long time. So a veteran would come through. They would be screened as appropriate for the program. My staff would then meet with them, do a comprehensive assessment of their needs, admit them to the program, work with them to collect the documentation that the Housing Authority would require, such as DD-214 and some other items which Elisa could speak to. Once we refer them to the Housing Authority, the Housing Authority will take over, brief them, provide them with a voucher, and Elisa can speak to that. Once they have that voucher, they come back to us, and then my staff would be working with them to locate housing, to access potentially deposit assistance for their rental, work with landlords to talk with them about possibly rolling utilities into the rent or making deposits spread over a period of time, lots of different possible options. And then once the veteran secures housing, we really try to help them get set up to the best of our ability in that housing. And then my staff start working with them in the home. And one of the things we bring to the program are peer support specialists. So these are veterans who work in our program who then work with the veterans admitted to our program to help them succeed, which is really a great opportunity for not only the veterans who are working in our program, but also the veterans who are receiving services in the program.
And I'm sure that they can relate to each other much more so than somebody who might not be a veteran and is trying to provide those important services.
They certainly do a good job of that. And I think on the other side, there's the rest of the process.
Right. We have one caseworker that's dedicated to the veterans, and she meets with them on a yearly basis, if not a little bit more often. She's the one that briefs them, gets to know them at the very beginning. As Carrie was saying, that there's things that they have to have in order to be eligible. One is the DD-214, honorable discharge. So with that in mind, when we brief them, we give them all the rules that they have to do while they're on our program to stay successful.
Now, how long can they use the voucher, and where do they find housing?
As long as they stay in good standing, they can continuously use this voucher.
Wonderful.
So they can actually have the VA VASH voucher first, and if they successfully graduate from that program, the Housing Authority will give them a regular housing choice voucher so that they continue on with the assistance throughout.
So it's a two-step voucher.
It
Is that
could
what
be.
I'm hearing
It
you
could
say?
be,
Oh,
yes.
okay, okay. So they come in through yours. Yours is a more of a short term, and then they can graduate to the long-term voucher.
Well, I
Yes.
think that depends on what you consider short term.
Tell
So
me what
it
you
really
mean.
is about need. So as long as the veteran needs and would continue to benefit from the services being provided by the VA, the veteran would remain in the HUD VASH program. When a veteran gets to a place where they've achieved their goals, they no longer are really able to benefit from those intensive in-home services,
They
then we
graduate.
can work with the public housing authorities to move the veteran off of HUD VASH.
And into a new housing choice voucher.
And would they, let's say they were in a house and the situation was working for them, would they be able to stay in that same house?
With the same voucher, well, we would just change type of voucher, and they would be able to stay there.
Continuity, less
Yes.
disruption, that would be good. Wonderful. Are there any special requirements on the type of housing veterans should be aware of?
Any type of housing, as long as it passes what we call the HQS, Housing Quality Standard Inspection, as long as it passes that and it remains in good condition, we will continue to lease them. Mobile home could qualify, condos, apartments, single-family houses, anything that like it says, housing choice, it would be their choice on what type of unit that they choose.
I'm vaguely familiar with that HQS checklist for the houses. Give us the highlights of what they're looking for when they go in and what might disqualify a house.
Absolutely. Housing quality standards, what we would go in is we look for main items, just like you and I would want to move into a house ready to be moved in. That's what we check for. Make sure it's clean. Make sure all the smoke detectors are working. Outlets are working. Here in Florida, we require that they have screens on the windows for the mosquitoes and things like that. Up north, they don't require that in some places. Make sure that all the appliances are working good condition
And
that
there
and all there and just make sure it's a quality house that you or I would want to move into.
Good to know.
So who all does the actual inspection?
We have a staff of 4 that go out and do inspections on all initials, and once a year annually they go
Good.
back out to check to make sure that the unit, both by the tenant and by the landlord, is being kept up in good standards.
Oh, so every year you go back to that same property and do an inspection?
Once a year, every housing choice voucher or VASH voucher is re-inspected in order to make sure that the unit is kept quality standard.
So we talked earlier about the landlords and the importance that they play in this whole program. And I understand that you're actually looking for landlords in the program right now.
Absolutely. We are always looking for quality apartments, condos, and landlords that will be willing to rent to not only regular housing choice, but to the VA VASH vouchers. Sometimes I know their staff with their peer specialists go out looking, and it is hard sometimes to find something when they don't have residential history because they've been homeless, and the peer specialists try to help them and talk to the landlords and let them know, this opportunity is great, the subsidy is great, this tenant is willing to go into that house, all those type of things that the peer specialist tries to go out and ask landlords to participate.
So how would somebody who's tuning in now, how would they find out, or what steps would they need to take to become a participant in your program?
They can contact both parties. The Housing Authority, they can contact our Housing Authority, and either myself or my assistant will contact them once they contact us, and we can touch base and see what they have to offer
What's
and
your
what we
phone
can
number?
offer. They can reach me at 727-443-7684, extension 3056, or extension 3124.
All right, good. A quick question I was thinking of, because somebody I was talking to the other day asked me this. Are there any guarantees for the landlord? What's the benefit for the landlord in being in this program?
Absolutely. One, well, we talked about the inspection. We really try to make sure that our tenants keep the units decent, safe, sanitary at all times. The landlords can always contact us when they feel when they need us to come out and take a look. One of the guarantees is rent. The subsidy part, when it's a tenant has income but may lose income, the housing authority then pays the full rent. It's always going to be based on the tenant's income, 30%. That's one of the good things about it. And one of the things is this is a very good program that people do not want to lose. So there's those things that we can hold the tenants responsible, and hopefully they will not bend the rules and go around, and so that they stay on the program successfully.
So that's good. I mean, you guys kind of act as the intermediary between the landlord and the tenant. We have some sort of a guarantee. As long as they're in the program, they got some rent. And if the landlord is looking to just do something really great to give back to veterans, this is just an awesome program.
Absolutely.
No, I'd just like to add that the veterans who are in the program are responsible for all the rights and responsibilities of tenancy. So there are no special rules around the lease. They are required to sign a standard apartment lease, and that lease provides the structure for the veteran to succeed. And I would also like to highlight that these are our nation's heroes.
Exactly.
And any landlord that's willing to assist our nation's heroes has a special place in our society.
Exactly. I think that's the most important thing about this program is it's helping veterans and giving back for everything they've done for us.
Right.
And you're looking for properties all throughout Pinellas County, aren't you? It's not concentrated on any particular geographic location?
No, our housing authority at the Pinellas County Housing Authority can go anywhere within Pinellas County. So we go all the way up to Tarpon Springs, all the way down to Gulfport, all the beaches and any lying areas in Pinellas County.
And you said it could be apartments, condos, houses?
Houses, yes. Mobile homes.
Mobile homes.
Yes.
Wow. Just an incredible opportunity. A quick question along the same lines just popped into my head. I'm assuming that this program is actually all over the state of Florida, not just Pinellas County?
That's correct. It's actually all over the country. It is, VA is a national organization, and we do operate the program at most medical centers throughout the country. Our program at the Bay Pines VA Healthcare Center system covers from Collier County to Pinellas County.
So that's a good point, too, for other people listening, is they can contact you directly, veterans can contact you directly, not just here in Pinellas, but much more widespread anywhere, to get help and get into the program.
That's correct.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
And how do people reach you?
So people can reach me by calling 727-398-6661, extension 15366.
And Elisa, let's give your information one more time.
Okay, it's 727-443-7684, extension 3056 or 3124.
Well, this has been such an informative and enlightening show, and we really appreciate you joining us today to tell us all about it, and would just really encourage some of the landlords that might be tuning in to reach out to you so that they can become a part of this program that's doing great things to not just house our veterans, but to give them those other services that they need to keep them successful.
Absolutely.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And again, our guests today were Carrie Meo-Omens with HUD's Veterans Administration Supported Housing Program at Bay Pines VA Healthcare System, and Elisa Galvan, Housing Choice Voucher Director with the Pinellas County Housing Authority. Thanks so much for tuning in to us on WRXB 1590 AM and, of course, Pinellas County Connection TV. We look forward to having you join us next month. And if you missed any part of this show or would like to view past shows, check out the website or YouTube. I'm Jane Merlin.
And I'm Carmen Lemberg.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Make it a great day.